Hello, everyone. Hello, Dallas. And good evening to Dallas. And hello to all my global viewers. Welcome to my show, Global Gupshup. And this is your host, Anu Benikati from Dallas. Thank you so much for joining a Facebook Live and YouTube Live today for the program. It's going to be very interesting today because you can enjoy the variety of topics just like every time. The discussions with me every week on this related to social, economical, political, and health related and entertainment as well. And speaking about that, today I have a very special topic for you. Those who have seen the flyer, the empowerment, the statistics of practicality, which absolutely we are going to have a very interesting conversation. So, folks, when we talk about empowerment, the options are, as you see, that are limitless. Because it's the process that as we speak that creates a power that individuals over their own lives or the society and in their own communities as well. So when we speak about a woman empowerment, so it steers towards the redefining the role of a woman, or even in where she participates, the ability, the eligibility, or the qualification, equality, like they may not be easy to acquire without a struggle. So, but to speak of that, is there a more to it, or is it just a the fighting or the struggle to prove that the femininity against masculinity? So, well, or do we see it sometimes differently? Like, so today's discussion is all about something, it's looking into a different perspective of that. And we will talk about the statistics and explore the practicality of those we often, consider unimportant. So, folks, today our guest is a very well-known speaker, and she's a former Miss India International. And so she, is a investment banker, so to speak, from Australia, and is now multimedia personality and entrepreneur, very successful entrepreneur based in Los Angeles. So she's also a political editor for The Observer and columnist for Foreign Policy News, Jerusalem Post, Times of Israel, and many more. She, it's a very interesting. She has traveled more than 65 countries, and she's a very well-known international speaker as well. So she was invited to speak at the most prestigious Observer Research Foundation of Delhi. As you all know, it's a very, the rare opportunity, the BRICS International and the Center for Human Prosperity. So I am very, very excited to welcome Ms. Preety Upala to my show, Global Workshop. Hi, Preety. Welcome. Thank you for joining.
Namaste, Anu, and namaste to your wonderful audience. Um, I am honored to be on your show. Thank you so much for having me. I think this is such an important topic, and any opportunity I think that we get these days to have this discourse is
Mm-hmm.
extremely valuable and insightful for the audience, I'm sure. I think globally it's a hot
Yes.
potato of a topic, and we don't actually speak enough about
Of
it,
that.
and
Yes,
let
yes.
alone find solutions. So, yeah.
Absolutely, absolutely. And we are going to be definitely involving our audience with the more interesting topic that probably they might not even just, thought that, okay, this is a possibility. So before that, and I have to apologize to my audience that, sorry, we are a little starting late. But we definitely are going to give you the word. So let's get to know you, Preeti, because we would love to get to know a little bit about you. So tell us a little bit, like where you are from, like then in a brief, take us to your journey, like till here. Then we're gonna
Oh,
start talking about a topic.
absolutely. Thank you so much again. Amazing. So it's my journey is quite interesting. I
Mhm,
am Indian, but born in the Middle East, and I grew up there
mhm,
for many years. I went to school there,
mhm,
and my family then moved to Europe, and then eventually to Australia, and then I moved to America. I was an investment banker in Sydney, Australia, when I gave up my career, my corporate career, and I realized that my dharma was something completely different, and that I really had to look across the Atlantic, so to speak, for I think my true destiny to take shape.
mhm,
And it all sort of came together. My spiritual journey also started at the same time, and that's when I got deeper into my own roots, into my
Right.
own Vedic, Indic roots, and that helped me enormously as well for clarity. But I won a scholarship to study in New York, and that was several years ago, and I that's how I moved here, and I live in Los Angeles. I do many things. I still work in Hollywood. I'm
Mm-hmm.
producing a show at the moment, and I'm excited about that, but I
Mm-hmm.
have my own radio show and my own podcast called The Preety Experience. I do a combination of interesting, diverse things like I'm a geopolitical analyst,
Mm-hmm.
so my focus is on foreign policy and international relations.
Mm-hmm.
However, I also am a certified Dharma ambassador. So I
Mm-hmm.
speak and write on spirituality, on philosophy, Vedic philosophy, Sanatan Dharma, Vedanta,
Mm-hmm.
and all those wonderful topics. I'm very
Mm-hmm.
privileged. Get to speak around the world on these fabulous
Fab
topics at these
topic.
very prestigious events. I'm
Mm-hmm.
writing a book at the moment, actually, on the very topic that we will be speaking on. And I'm also very honored to say that I have been writing, I've been, working in media for several years, but I do some deep work. In the political sphere, and a lot of my research and work has been published in hundreds of outlets so far. So I think, very happy to see also my work translated into several languages.
Oh,
And so
awesome.
it's all very interesting. I'm quite honored to be living my dream life, I feel. But, it
Mm-hmm.
took a lot of courage, I think, to give everything up and move to the other side of the world by yourself and start from scratch as I have done.
Absolutely.
But the divine has always helped me, I feel.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, wearing such a, like the honored hat, like, just like the crown, I should say. So, what exactly the empowerment means to you? Like, I'm sure that you have been through several aspects of it and several, images of it and then, situations. So, tell us briefly, like, what it means to you.
Oh, that's such a beautiful question. I think empowerment has my idea of it has changed. When I was an investment banker, I thought empowerment was being able to hold my own in a company or a team full of men, which was the case. I worked in tech and in
Mhm,
finance, which is a heavily male dominated industry. So
mhm,
I thought I could really be one of the team and be taken very seriously. And my parents, my father especially, always told me that I could do whatever I wanted. He completely backed me up and supported all
mhm,
my choices to study what I wanted to study and do whatever I wanted to do for a profession. So I'm very
mhm,
lucky. I always had that incredible upbringing and values instilled in me, that anything was possible. It didn't matter for myself or my brother. We had the same opportunities in life. My
mhm.
parents gave both of us the same sort of, they
Same
unfolded
short.
the same path in many ways. But
Right, right.
now, so many years later, I have changed paths.
Mhm,
I have, done a lot of, work on myself and explored. And, my idea of empowerment is very different. It's not overt. It's
mhm,
not, being the loudest person or making your point,
mhm,
or anything of that nature. And also, I don't think it's just being that one woman in a company. I don't really find that's the true empowerment. I think true empowerment comes from yourself.
mhm,
And it is linked to self love and self empathy, self compassion, self understanding. You need to know who you are, your
mhm,
essence, your
mhm,
purpose in life. Why are you here? What is your gift to humanity? Are you
mhm,
living your purpose?
mhm.
If you really ask yourself those questions, there may be many seemingly successful people who probably won't say that they're truly successful or even empowered. And I think true empowerment is when you are not just a voice for your own goals and ideas, but I think when you have the courage to be the voice for the voiceless. So
Right,
to
right.
me, I think working with different charities and think tanks that deal with, human issues, human rights issues, and so on, that's what empowerment has come to me. It's not just finding a space for yourself
Mhm,
on the global stage. I think it's using your space for
mhm.
something good in the world, for the betterment of humanity. Because
So,
what good is power if you're not making the world a better place or
mhm,
making life better for someone else? So I
mhm,
take it very seriously. I think whatever platforms I have made for myself
Right.
in the world, because I know that I wield a lot of power. I can affect change, and I
Right.
must be conscientious of that,
Mhm.
and really, do what I can, and be brave, push it to the limit. There's a
Mhm.
lot to be done, and I must not be, fearful at all that I'm not being heard, or my message isn't being taken seriously by the right people, or it's not affecting the masses to the level that I want it to reach them. You don't do that. I think even if you affect one person, then your job is well served. So I
Right,
think that, to
right.
me, that's what empowerment means.
Well, that's a wonderful way of putting it, because it's not a easy, like to be said that, like then done. Because the reason is, when we actually have these ideas of our own, and then, like what you said, it sounds wonderful, because if everyone adopts that so easily and then understands it and then just, implement it, and what would be a wonderful place. But one thing that we all have to, like today, that, that is probably what we need to talk about, like it's a practicality, like, that's like, there are different statistics that we do not understand, or we purposefully or maybe intentionally ignore it, or we just kind of think that it doesn't even, like affect everyone. So the take home message from your answer was like, okay, so don't be too selfish. Empowerment is not that. You just give back what you have and use that one as a power. So that is the true empowerment, is what you said. That's wonderful. That's really something that, that we all have to understand. Like you have traveled 65 countries, like you said. I'm very sure that you've seen this struggle exists in every corner of the world. It is not just, belong to just one person or a one country or a one village. So seeing all that, like there are many things that are left out from, the when we talk about the empowerment discussion. So let's touch a little bit about that one. So what exactly that what we want to discuss is the first question women empowerment, when we talk about, is that comes is a gender equality. Is that is the first thing that people look at it, like women empowerment is like, okay, this is just a win over male over female, or like what we just said that. So what do you think, like it's in specific, is this like a personal freedom, financial freedom, or some kind of a, like a what do you call, the emotional control? So what do you think, like how do we explain that one?
Great point. Where I must update my bio, because I've actually been to almost 100 countries now. So
Oh,
even more
wow.
countries than probably when this was a few years ago, I think, when it
Uh-huh.
was like 65, and that even
Right.
that's a lot. But you make a great point. I think as I've traveled around the world, I've realized that
Mm-hmm.
the world is so similar. We are more similar than we are different.
Mm-hmm.
And we all want the same things. We
Right.
want to be loved. We want to be understood. We want to be heard. We want to be accepted. We want to be valued. And
Correct.
men and women around the world also want the same things. And I think
Mm-hmm.
they also want the same things from each other.
Mm-hmm.
Today, when I think about this, uh, firstly, this topic of women's empowerment, gender equality, is probably one of the hottest issues, and it will be for a long, long time to come, because I don't see a resolve globally in the way that it truly should be. So I think 10 years, 15, 20 years from now, I think we'll still be speaking about these hot issues.
Right.
Um, as I've traveled, I've noticed that the concept of female empowerment actually is quite different from civilization to civilization, from religion to religion, from sort of country to country. But before we
Mm-hmm.
get to that,
Mm-hmm.
I think we find ourselves at a very interesting sort of fork
Mm-hmm.
in the story of feminism and equality. I
Mm-hmm.
think we are realizing that although women have more uh, freedom, more rights, more power than ever in,
Mm-hmm.
at least when you speak about, say, the last 2,000 years.
Mm-hmm.
Because the ancient civilization, I think that's a different story altogether. But at least when you think about last 2,000 years, or the whole Enlightenment years and all of that jazz, we have more power than ever. I think we have
Mm-hmm.
more parity. By law, men and
mhm,
women should are equal and should be paid the same for the same amount of work. But what
mhm,
we are realizing is that women are more unhappy, more
mhm,
unfulfilled. They feel actually more disempowered than ever before in history. Why is
mhm,
that the case? Even
mhm,
though they seem to have more than ever, especially in the West, and
mhm,
yet the void is deeper. They're more emptier than before. And
mhm,
my whole thesis for this is, I
mhm,
think we are chasing the wrong things, and
mhm,
we are sort of chasing the we've gone into the abyss, and we're chasing this thing that is unreachable, and
mhm,
you will never find true fulfillment and power where we
mhm,
are trying to find it. And that's why
mhm,
we've especially when I think about America or Europe,
mhm,
I find women incredibly there's a deep sense of void there, which I think they can't even articulate sometimes. Obviously
mhm,
the men know that there's something wrong, but they can't really speak for them either, and they
mhm,
can't really put their mind together and sort of conceptually
mhm.
kind of spell it out for the world. And I think this is the main issue here is that women are not being their true selves. They're
Right,
not
right.
being their true essence. They're not expressing themselves in the way that they ought to.
Mhm,
And so, although we have all this power, seemingly society has given us rights that society has given us.
mhm,
Deep down, we have not given ourselves permission to really be this feminine goddess that we are meant to be. And
mhm,
that's the big issue. And as long as we keep chasing something else, that void is actually going to get deeper. And I suspect in 5 years, if we don't change this,
mhm,
women will be even more disenchanted with all of this,
mhm.
and men will be disenchanted. I think that's a we're not we don't when we talk about feminism, we often actually forget about the male and
So
what
where
they're thinking, what they're going through. So this is where we are at in the world, I think.
sorry to interrupt, but that sounds very interesting, because so where are we making the mistake? Because I mean, like, we are considering the sexes, for example, that if you become, like, how high can you go? Like, okay, let's take our own, the vice president. So that's the highest. Or okay, even the president. So let's go. I mean, so why are we so unsatisfied? Like, that is just doesn't make sense to me, because the success is the wrong chase that we are after, or is this something that unhappiness caused by something, like, we always want more? Like, what do you mean by that? Like, why are we not understanding? What do you mean
I
by it?
think we're conflating many other things for true empowerment and true fulfillment. So
Mhm,
conflating success and power, let's say, with empowerment is really a disaster waiting to happen. And that's what I see happening in the world. We've had
mhm,
female leaders across for thousands of years. Actually, when you
mhm,
look back to
mhm,
ancient
mhm,
India, we had these incredible warriors and incredible queens. So I
mhm,
think it's funny that in the West, even now, they haven't. America hasn't had a female leader, and might not. I mean, who knows how which way the things will the dominoes will fall. But I think where we're going wrong is not realizing that the true power and true essence comes from within. That's something you give to yourself. I think
mhm,
women need to stop seeking validation from society, from
mhm,
men, and understanding that reaching a position of power doesn't mean that suddenly you're empowered. I think we always have the power. We've always had the power. I think we need to maybe remember that the power is with us, has always been with us, has never left us, even though there have obviously been some factions who want to pretend or want to make you feel that you're powerless. And in some societies, some cultures, some
mhm,
faiths, it's a little more than others. I think it's we need to step up. I think that this is it takes two to tango. It's not just blaming the other for sort of taking away something from us. I think you also need to claim what's yours, and in fact, you actually never lost it. So you
mhm,
need to really understand that it's actually within you. These things are intangible qualities like love and forgiveness and gratitude and
mhm,
compassion. So they will never leave you. They're in abundance. So I think this actually, women are very good at this. They
mhm,
have they have so much to give to the world and so much to give to their families, but yet they don't give it to themselves. So you find female executives sometimes waking up and realizing, geez, I've done this in my career, but I'm not happy. I'm not married. I don't have children. I mean, I'm not feminine. I'm not feeling like a woman. Uh, there's no fulfillment. I'm really not happy. This thing didn't really work out for me all that well. And it's one thing if you're 20 or 30, it's another when you're 60, when maybe it's too late to even have all of that. So I think I think women have been sold a bridge. I think they've
Hmm.
been sold a dream that they can have it all without
Hmm.
compromising on anything. And I think that is simply mathematically, scientifically not possible. You have to make it work. You have to negotiate. You have to maneuver around it. This
Hmm.
idea of superwoman, it's just, it doesn't exist. And if anybody's telling you that it exists, they're lying. And if any woman is saying that she is that superwoman, I don't buy it.
Well,
Something in her life
let
is,
me let
she
me
is
interrupt
obviously
you.
compromised.
Let me interrupt you with this, and this is a very it's exciting, the one that you saying it, because okay, so what you're saying is you can be content, and then you don't have to really show the world that you have the power. You just have the self satisfaction because you always have the power in you. So but the current the world, the existing world, unless that is not proven, so do you think that might be one of the reasons that they are actually after that, because they are forced, basically they are actually driven towards that, like unless you do that, then you are not powerful. So even though they are content, they are like they are so happy with whatever their achievement, unless it is visible. So that is just, do you think that could be the reason?
Yeah, I think it's society selling women all of this sort of really started with the pill, because
Hmm.
suddenly they realized that, oh, I can do this and that,
Hmm.
and I'm not limited, and suddenly it opened this whole world of possibilities for women. And then they thought, well, I can have this, that, and the other.
Hmm.
And the society told them, yes, you can. But in actuality, I mean, you can obviously strive to do as much as you can, but I think you need to know your priorities. I
Hmm.
think where we are going wrong is realizing that what makes a woman special
Hmm.
is, not the hardness and all of that. I think she's inherently very strong. I mean,
Hmm.
a woman can give birth, she can create life. Man can't do that. Already she is on a different scale, on a
Level.
different level. And,
Hmm.
and honestly, if you ask any man, if you ask any married man especially, they will tell you she's the boss, and they will tell you she's the goddess, she's the angel. They do, a good man would, she is the fairer sex. She is the significant other, so to speak. That's where that term comes from. So I
Right.
think women need to realize that their real power actually lies in their vulnerability, their softness, their compassion, their understanding, their sensuality, their all these beautiful
Beautiful.
things that men desire and want so badly. Because trust me, a man is not looking for his mirror. He's not looking for some hotshot executive that doesn't do anything for him. I think women think, oh, I'm going to become that executive, and then I'm going to get that perfect soulmate or this successful man. No, he's looking for. I mean, hey, he'll respect you a lot. Obviously, if you've done very well in your career and you're very educated, that's
Hmm.
amazing, and you must strive for that. Nobody's asking anyone to say, don't study, don't work, be just cook and clean. Not at all. But I think don't lose who you are in the process of being this ideal that you think the world wants from you, or you think man wants from you. He actually wants that softness that he, by the way, he's not getting, and he can't give himself. So there is kind of a dichotomy happening here. And then I'm sure we'll talk about the gender reversals, where what I find in the West is men are becoming very soft, they're becoming very effeminate, and women are becoming very hard, and they're forced to sort of man up in a way. And I don't think that's very healthy. I think
Hmm.
neutralizing of the sexes and genders is very dangerous.
Hmm.
You're messing with biology, you're messing with science in a way, and you need to understand that equality can be achieved on different levels, but you don't want to like tinker with the inherent sort of
Experimentation.
structure of man and woman, because they are equal,
Hmm.
but they're different. They want
Mhm.
different things. They have different qualities. They're not the same. They're equal, but different, I would say. I think
Okay.
this push towards saying that they're same
Mhm.
um, is very dangerous, because then you have a complete role reversal where you can have
Mhm.
a house husband and you can have this
Mhm.
breadwinner. And I'm not finding that that's particularly working, because in Europe they have that. I was just talking to a friend of mine who's
Mhm.
from he's Dutch, he's from Holland,
Mhm.
and he's a somebody who talks about the divine masculine himself. And yet he was sharing with me that when he speaks to his Dutch friends back in Holland, they, these are married men, married for a long time. They have family. No one's happy, because in Holland they have achieved, that's the word, that's where the word going Dutch comes from. They genuinely are 50-50,
Sharing.
sharing, on a different level, where there's no machismo at all. The woman is like, don't pay for me.
Mhm.
Although it's empowering to say, I don't need you, but be a woman, let him pay. Come on, let him spoil you. You're the queen. If you're going to
Mhm.
keep saying, I don't need you, I don't need you to take care of me, and but you're missing, like, he wants to do that. And that's where
So
a bit of the spark,
that
bit of the chemistry,
that
because of a bit of
reminds
that.
me. That reminds me of your say radical movement. The one that feminism. So the one that you actually talked about. Yes, I mean,
Yes.
like I really don't know. So basically, like, what is the see this hindrance is coming from? Like, for not accepting it. So
Well,
okay, go ahead.
no, no, we're fine. Yeah,
Uh,
you mentioned this. Look, feminism obviously is a wonderful
mhm,
concept, such a humanitarian movement, and it's really you want to bring up everybody. Everybody deserves to have a great
never.
life, a great shot. They deserve to be loved and respected. All of that good stuff. But I
Mhm,
think this there is a push towards a very sort of radical aspect of it now, where feminists are not even
mhm.
recognizing it. I think when the original feminists are not pushed out of the picture, we have a problem.
Right.
When Germaine Greer is no longer a feminist, I think we have a serious issue. Someone who's worked for
Mhm,
decades for the
mhm,
betterment of women, suddenly there's some new faction has come in to say,
mhm,
you're just not feminist enough for us, for this
mhm,
movement. And I think
mhm,
they're taking the movement in a different direction, and that is what I speak about, and that's very dangerous. And
mhm.
people don't want to touch it because it's a hot potato. They don't want to offend anyone, because
Yes.
a lot of issues get conflated. Because if you are critical of that, you're
Mhm,
also, it seems like you're saying you're critical of progress, which is not the case at all. I think what I also see with politics and religion is there's a lot of conflation happening of various disjointed issues, but
mhm,
they're so similar. So, but when you talk about them in the same vein, and
mhm,
you replace one for the other, that's when you straw man everything, and you lose the argument. And I think the casualty in all of this is the truth and the facts, and the fact that
mhm,
women are not happy
mhm,
and fulfilled,
mhm.
and we have a problem. And if we don't do anything about it, it is really
Mhm.
going to go off the hills. I think we're
Hills.
at a point now where we can fix these things. Awareness is obviously the first step. You have to admit that there's a problem, and that's hard to it's hard to get that from people, to
Right,
elicit that
right.
from some of these so-called activists, that there is
Mhm,
something wrong. And I think what they're doing is they're sort of uh, co-signing a lot of people onto their movement, where now whether it's in the corporate world, in big tech, in media, in politics, one has to be very careful about these issues. And you don't want to be seen saying the wrong thing, because you would
mhm,
immediately sort of get canceled, so to speak. But there is a
mhm,
middle ground, and I think
mhm.
I talk about that. I talk
Right,
about being
right.
honest with what's going on, and how to have the power as well, but obviously, but don't lose your essence and your inherent nature in the process.
Right, right. So that really makes sense, and absolutely. So, and also that you just mentioned, like, when we were talking the previously, that you said that it goes two for tango, goes hand in hand, two, the two hands for a clap. So, are we talking about like, cooperating, or is this just accepting each other's faults? And then, do you think that will make, is that what you mean by two for tango? Like, so tell me.
Yes, I mean that men have a perspective on this too, and women have a perspective on it too. And I think we sometimes forget what the male desires from us, and in the pursuit of this sort of ideal that somebody has painted for us, I think we are totally ignoring that other half of it. So
Is this, do
it
you think, because of that, they're struggling to accept that feminism by themselves, or is this because something that, like they're living by their expectations that, I have to be perfect?
I think looking for validation outside of yourself, going with what media and society has told us for decades, and they have completely distorted a lot of these things. They never speak about ground realities and so on. And also
Mhm,
I see the situation quite different, I must say.
mhm,
In when
mhm,
I look at East and West, I see a different story,
mhm,
especially with this concept of feminism. And I
mhm,
speak quite in depth about that, and I'm writing a book on this very issue, sort of
mhm,
looking at feminism across cultures and across civilizations and even across faiths in a way, to see
mhm,
how they are different, and they are quite different. For
mhm,
example, when you look at India, when you look at Dharma, Sanatan Dharma, you look at this Indic Vedic way. According to
mhm,
the Vedas, men and women were always equal. There
mhm,
was never a struggle. They both had power. Women wielded a lot of power, both in our mythology and in ancient India, and even they do today as well. It's a very different setup that we have there,
mhm.
and I like that a lot because when you look at the Indian woman, firstly we have more goddesses than gods. We
Yes,
have devi worship, we have goddess
yes,
worship is central to our
we do.
civilization and our
We do.
faith, and that's a
Yes.
beautiful thing, and the woman is really upheld, and every woman should be treated like a goddess. Sometimes they are, sometimes they're not. That's a different
Mhm,
issue how it's being implemented today. But the from a scriptural perspective, and doctrinal perspective, I think that's where the real proof in the pudding is. And there is no fight for rights. It's
right.
duty. It's not about rights. It's not this, so, my rights, my struggle. No, it's about duty. We do what is the right thing to do. I think we understand our gifts, our roles. And
Mhm,
you look at the typical Indian woman. She's the CEO of a huge multinational corporation, but she's wearing a sari. She's extremely feminine. She looks great.
mhm,
She can make that work for herself.
mhm,
I don't see that a lot in the West. Here, it's you almost have to look like a man to be in that position, and
mhm,
and think and talk like a man as well. And I think
mhm,
that's a big difference. And I see that across the board when I look at India, as it always has been, but also even today, which is very pleasing to me. And I think that just the whole framework of feminism and gender that we have is
mhm.
very different. Remember, I think India is the only country in the world that has an official third gender too. So
Right.
we are very accepting of, whether it's trans or LGBTQ community, or we have space for every kind in within our pantheon of Sanatan Dharma, right? And that's still
Mhm,
very intact. And
mhm,
because of that beautiful quality, people can be themselves. And I think the inherent essence is not lost. It's very much there. And in the West, I think it's very much you have to pick. You're either this or that.
mhm,
It's black and white. There's no gray. But as
mhm.
we know, life is all gray.
Mhm.
It's not black and white. So I
Yeah.
think this is where there's a huge difference between frameworks in
Mhm,
in practice.
mhm,
And my book actually explores these frameworks and where the West has kind of gone off the rails, and where they could learn maybe from other frameworks out there.
mhm,
Because the West is a great place for great ideas to be implemented. I think that's where they shine in these implementations of these high level evolved ideas. right?
Well,
So I think it's
mhm,
poised for that, but I just think that they don't know about the frameworks, or they're not taking them seriously, or they're not being introduced or presented by them. And
mhm,
that's what I'm attempting to do.
mhm. Well, that you have, you said that you're a Dharma ambassador, and also that you have, like, contributed in educating, to different communities about different, ways of, like, sort of how to follow, like what you just talked about, like a philosophy, Vedanta, that is how it is accepted, and, what's the truth and myths and kind of thing. So, we just said that, the Hinduism had like so many goddesses, which that we only know that, like being there. So, what do you think that in Hinduism the empowerment means when we talk about those goddesses? Because they're always, like, worshipped as one of the power sources of energy, that what we so called, and, every single time that, we have so many of them representing them. So, like, what is your thought on that?
I think the goddess for us, the Devi, is uh, they embody everything that we are
Uh-huh.
inherently, because even the namaste, it means the divine is recognizing the divinity in everything. And I think the central theme, it seems, of Hinduism is that
The
aham
goddess.
brahmasmi,
Yeah.
everything is divine, you are the divine. And
Mm-hmm.
that's a very different framework and model to uh,
Mm-hmm.
a framework that says that there is a God up there and you are down here, and don't you dare call yourself divine. You are not. You are not God. You're not divine. So I think our premise is quite different, and um, we are supposed to see these incredible qualities in these goddesses, and
Mm-hmm.
these goddesses are not perfect. They have all emotions in them. They're not just all love and light. When you look at Kali or Durga, she's ferocious. She will
Mm-hmm.
destroy illusion and delusion and the ego. And we
Mm-hmm.
need Kali. I think Kali is the goddess that we need the most in 2020 and 2021 and moving forward, because she completely destroys all this, misinformation, fake news, all of this
The
venom that we
evil
see on social
spirits of
media.
what
That's the
so
only
called.
thing that we don't need love and light. That's not going to fix anything. I think we need to see through the BS, so to speak. But what I
Mm-hmm.
like about the goddesses is that they're
Mm-hmm.
personable, and
Mm-hmm.
you can be aspirational about them. You can be like that too. They have their own stories. They have their own history. This all their stories also teach you. They've gone through hell and back, literally, sometimes, and they hold their own, and they always are so beautiful, and
Right.
they stand for such amazing qualities, whether it's knowledge or
Mm-hmm.
prosperity, beauty, intelligence, power, all of that good stuff. And I think that's a quality that is in, when I look at Indian women, I do see that in them, which is, it seems to be a part of our DNA in some ways.
Right.
But also, when I look at Asia in general, I see there's a softness there, there's a femininity, I think, in the women there that I don't quite see in the West. And this is why you find a lot of men from America, Europe, Australia, they love to go to
Mm-hmm.
Asia, Southeast Asia, because they find a different quality there,
Mm-hmm.
and they like that. They like the softness. They
Mm-hmm.
want to be the man. And there's a healthy way to do it. Obviously, sometimes you see that kind of going off the rails as well, when you, because I think sometimes they mistake love for something else. But that's a different issue altogether. But I think we need to realize that you don't need to encroach on the other's space in order for you to claim power. And I think that you don't need to lose yourself. You don't have to give up on who you are in order to be what you want to be. This is the great takeaway, I think, that I can take from a Vedic or dharmic
The
feminist perspective, I
viewers. Right, right, right. Wow, that's a great. So let's just, touch a little bit about then, what you said, the facets and assets. So, like, let's talk about a little bit before we, conclude our show. So that, I think, that must be talked in that way. So otherwise, like, we probably will not justify this one to our audience.
Well, yeah, I had a great interview a while back, and it was a very interesting experience. It was an interview by a podcast. He was a male, and
Mhm,
he had an all male podcast only, all male audience. Very much. I mean, he was American, and it seemed like the audience was almost kind of men of faith, conservative types. And it's funny, we actually completely agreed. We were on the same page, and he was so happy when we had our conversation, and I didn't know how he was going to take any of what I was saying. And he completely aligned with everything. He was so grateful that I mentioned it. And he said, all the men in my audience, and he had a huge platform, they are dying. They've been dying for a woman to say these things because they feel all of this. They can't articulate it. They would be butchered if, if I think if there was a white man who was saying all the things that I'm saying, that would be the end of his whole career, I think,
so
as a
you
thought
think
leader.
every man has the same kind of a opinion about this one, so to speak?
No, not
No,
necessarily, but I
not
think
necessarily.
that for a man to make these claims saying what's happening to feminism, it's going off the rails, I don't think anybody would accept that. But I think if a woman said that, at least they would listen to her. And if a woman of color, somebody like myself, I have a very authentic point of view. I'm a woman of color. I'm a, minority in many, many ways. I'm coming from a very specific perspective, and I'm bringing a cultural, civilizational aspect to it and a
Mhm,
conceptual aspect to it. So I think they would give me the space, they would respect my opinion, understand
mhm,
what I'm saying. And I think if I say it in the right tone,
mhm,
they have to, they agree that there's an issue, and how do we tackle this. But
mhm,
in my conversation with him, I told him about, what's we were just briefly talking about what are men doing wrong. What does the masculine, what does the feminine want from the
want to be
masculine? Like, what do
masculine.
women want from men? Because his
Men.
audience wanted to know what they were doing wrong, and how do they get love and all of that. And I said communication is important. We're not mind readers,
Mhm,
and also let the woman know
mhm,
uh, your qualities. Let the woman know what are you about. And also, every
mhm,
woman is like a diamond. She has different facets to her. You have to polish those facets and turn them into an asset, and that's your job.
mhm,
So don't be sort of shy about that. Let her know what you want. Also, let her know what you like about her, and that always makes people feel good. But have an honest conversation, and that's where the whole facets or assets come into to place. Because I think every woman is a diamond. She needs to be polished, and she will shine. And her facets truly are assets. Find a diamond that is what you're looking for, and always be that polisher, to really make this diamond glow. That's the
mhm.
man's job, truly, to bring out her divinity and her beauty and grace. And I think man is capable of that. It's just that they don't go there for various reasons.
Mhm. Yeah, because every woman is special in her own way, because like, and finding that what so-called the special in her is something that probably needs to be done with the patience, respect, and also probably maybe in a different approachable ways
Yeah.
that works for, because there is no such thing as like one size fits all, because like there is a different ways to approach and different kind of things that works for a different personalities. And I think you're right. I absolutely that so the gem has to be like put to a test in
Yeah,
order to
and I think
shine.
you need to pay attention. Another
Hmm.
quality, I gave them like five tips.
Hmm.
Communication. The find out, or you see her like a diamond. The other one was, yeah, you just need to find out her language of love.
Hmm.
Look at her, observe her. What
Hmm.
is how does she respond to you? And
Hmm.
answer to her or relate to her in a way that she can understand. Because if you're
Right.
speaking a language of love that she doesn't quite understand, she won't
Hmm.
realize that she's being loved, and she
Yes.
won't realize that you're actually showering her with love. She'll think that what are you saying? This is all foreign
Hmm.
language to me. So know her. Be be honest with yourself, be honest with
Right.
her. I think where
Hmm.
most relationships fail is actually communication. And
Hmm.
then furthermore is expectation,
Yes,
expecting
absolutely.
them to fix you or to fix your all your trauma, your probably your several lifetime worth of trauma. She's not your psychotherapist, she's not your psychiatrist. I mean, you go get therapy if you need to, but don't burden all of that on her. That's not why she's there in your life. She's there to bring out the best in you, and you're there to bring out the best in her. So look, see the role that both of you are supposed to play for each other.
Well, that is
So there's
that is definitely, like we have to agree, because there is no such thing as just you can clap with one hand. So there must be two hands to clap, and the finding the best qualities makes a louder noise, and definitely that works better to take home message. Well, Preeti, that was a wonderful to meet you, and thank you so much for joining. It was excellent that to have you on my show and talk about such an interesting views, and your sharing your thoughts with us. And definitely, this we will take it further. And then folks that like whoever joined, thank you so much, because I know this is not just a only view, that we have a lot more other side that can be a possibility for this so-called woman empowerment. This is not a just a like the whole entire so-called the perspective or the idea of what we are talking about the empowerment. So we probably will give more the lights on that one, and also will bring the other side of it as we go, maybe. But until then, thank you so much for joining, and just keep watching, and thank you for your support. And Preeti, thank you so much for joining. So everyone, have a wonderful night or a great evening if you're in India or any other countries. And globally, have a wonderful rest of the week. Thank you. Thank you for the support.
Thank you so much for having me. Thank you.